Okay, so you've now met all the people that have contributed to this course, and hopefully you can pick up on the fact that it's going to be something that I'm really, really passionate about, and I hope it's going to really, really help people. I know there's a plethora of questions that people have. I'm going to try and scroll through them on my phone, so bear with me whilst I disconnect from looking at the screen, and I'm sure if you have questions, by all means ask them. So I'm just going to go back. I don't know if I can access them all. Let's have a look. So I know that one of the questions was about that you heard Patricia and Ian's story, and I'm sure everybody, there was comments and there was really, really heartwarming to see how everybody picked up on the genuine, the connection that they have with their dog. And I'm sure that a lot of the messaging or the things that they said resonated with people. One of the comments that was made was, well, those people have all worked with me in person. How's that going to affect in online training? So whether you may or may not know that I teach a lot online, and I teach across the world online, and I have students from across the globe that I work with on a regular basis online. And I've actually found that online training is such an effective medium of connecting with somebody. And it's not to substitute in-person training if that's possible, but for a lot of people that isn't possible. So what I'd offer to them is to give them explicit information via the medium of the online platform or the website, which they can follow, so they can go away and do the work and come back to me and connect with me on a check-in point. And that's how it works from a sports perspective, I should say. For Relabelling Reactivity, the course has been put together with making it really, really simple to follow. I didn't want to make it too heavy with, people having to access other people's help to get a million to create perfect situations, because I know that isn't practical for most people to access the perfect stooge dog, to get somebody to help them. It was about really equipping the person with the skills to be able to move forward. The things that is covered in the course are the things that I worked with Dylan and Patricia. So it's just a case of they would access me on a weekly basis in a class, but they would go away and do the work independently, utilizing and implementing the things that I and the techniques that I've suggested for them. So in terms of the online course, the course is based on everything that Patricia and Dylan were taught in a class, and it's just condensed into an online entity. Now, I say condensed. The course currently has over 100 videos. Okay, that's a lot, people, so bear with me, okay, which is going to be staggered in its release, because I absolutely get that can be information overload. So there's 100 videos of content, and it's going to be growing because I'm going to be adding more stuff to that. And obviously the other experts are going to be adding content to that as well. So whilst it is great if you have the medium of accessing, if you can, follow up the stuff on the course and, come on a seminar I did, etc., that's not the agenda of the course. The online course is designed in a way that you can work through the exercises and do it solely on your own with no other help from other people necessarily, until you build up your confidence via the means of the training, the techniques, and also the self-awareness and self-help stuff. Eventually, that the final piece of the puzzle would be if you could access me on a live one-to-one basis, or in a class or in a seminar, but it isn't a necessity to make to glean from the project. And it's been very, very much designed with that in mind, because I absolutely get that, a lot of times when you're working with reactive dogs, it's quite the perfect stooge dog, the perfect still environment, etc. And it's all about real world training. And there is an entity on the course where you literally, as I say, see me walking one of my dogs in a public space, where I see people with prams and dogs, etc., situations that could quite easily be problematic, and how I deal with those in those situations. All right. So I'm going to just have a look at questions, if there's any more questions. Yours are wonderful to bonus questions. I used to go to ring. Oh, yeah, great point, Jackie. Lifetime of I think some dogs are lifetime of management to some degree. Mine is, although he's amazing now, there's always those moments when he's likely to react because of how he's feeling, just to read and recognize those moments. That's the thing to reiterate, and it's that Disney-esque mentality we have to dogs. Dogs are not meant to love everything, not respond to anything. They're not meant to be robots. They're not meant to be cuddly toys. it's perfectly normal, yet for your dog to go, I don't like that other dog, or I don't like that, I'm a bit concerned. That doesn't make your dog a problem. And all of us as responsible dog owners should have an entity where we manage our dog's behaviors. So I was walking my dogs today, just to give you an example. I saw somebody, a couple walking their 3 dogs. I had my dogs loose. I called my dogs back and I made them wait and sit with me. I did that not because my dogs were a problem, but I'm sure those people didn't want to be surrounded by all my dogs, and I didn't want my dogs going up to them. I managed their behavior. Their dogs were perfectly, beautifully behaved, and so were mine. That doesn't mean my dogs are good, bad, or indifferent. It means that's courtesy for fellow dog walkers. And management is something that I think everybody should consider. The goal is to have the minimal amount of management, and hopefully having our dogs so confident and solid in most situations that they can navigate life with minimal amount of problems. All right. Jill made a comment about, I'd love to be able to take them out without feeling I'm constantly in training mode. So initially, definitely you're going to be, if I had a puppy, so if I had a puppy now, the first year of their life, if not 18 months, is going to be in training mode. So that's a part and parcel. I'm going to be thinking about the environments they're going in. I'm going to think about the experiences they have. I'm going to think about the situations that they're being exposed to. I'm going to think about that. That's part and parcel of owning a dog and rearing it to be a well-adjusted adult. It's you earn the right to say, okay, I can let the dog off the lead and largely it's going to be safe. However, the caveat to that is, you can't, even if your dog is absolutely brilliant, I'm still always respectful of other people, because I don't want to be the person that's shouting across the park, oh, he's friendly, he just wants to say hello, which is, you know, the words that resonate with us all and send a cold stake into our heart. But it's something that is really, really critically to understand. It's not to create a dog that goes, yeah, great, I can be in a crowd of dogs, and if a dog bites me, I'm going to turn up. That's not what the course is about. And the course is most definitely not about, here's a magic wand, I can fix your dog, because there is nothing to fix. It's about giving you the skills, giving the dog the skills, and equipping you with some personal skills that you can implement to change the way your dog lives its life. I want to be really, really implicitly clear. All the people that have worked with me, and you've heard their dialogues and you've heard their conversation, they were committed to the process, as was I. So the project has been, as I say, years in the making. So I've really committed to this process, as have all the contributors. And that's what I ask anybody that's considering joining. Just be committed to the process, and again, take the lessons on board, and have perseverance, and accept that you're going to have ups and downs. Like Patricia talked about, like Dylan talked about, it's not just, right, okay, I come to Kamal Fernandez, I'm going to start his training and off I go. That's the natural progression of owning a dog, and the relationship we have is very much about an up and down, but it's having the skills and the support system behind you to be able to move forward. All right. So, give me hope, Lou. Can I physiotherapy? I am a veterinary physician. I agree. Pain can definitely become very reactive. Absolutely, yeah, definitely, Karen. I think that's something that often is overlooked. That is the dog physically well. That's something really, really, really great point. Okay, I'm just reading through the comments to see if there's any more questions. I know there's a couple on the Zoom chat. How long do you access the material for? Is it lifetime access so you can revert back to in the future? So, Jodie, the course, when you subscribe to the course, I'm going to go over this more next week. I'm just mindful of the time. It's been a really long evening for everybody. The course is, you get, initially you subscribe, you'll get 12 months access, and then there's a renewal every year. If you want to be part of the collective, again, same principle, you can upgrade to getting that access, and that's where you're part of a private Facebook group in which you're going to get additional content, and I will be doing regular lives and webinars, as will the other contributors, I should say, to help you that year process. The idea is that we're going to support you in that year. Yeah. So it isn't about you getting direct feedback and posting video. That isn't what the course is about. The course is being created to be so extensive and so covered all bases that you should be able to, if you wanted to just self-study, you're more than able to. But if you wanted to partake in more exclusive stuff and additional content, then you can subscribe to the collective. But again, all the pricings and stuff like that, I'm going to go in next week, and I'm going to be releasing information about next week. So bear with me on that. I'm just mindful of getting through your questions about reactivity. Okay. Let's have a look. Okay, so refreshing to hear people's stories about, yeah, absolutely. Again, I'm going to go in, I've talked a bit about that. I'm going to talk about costings because we're working at making sure that it's affordable and there's a price plan, etc. So I'm going to give all that information out next week. So just bear with me on that. Excellent. I'm just going to check if there's the Zoom chat. I think there's a couple of questions on there. Okay. Do you think ratios are more common? Do you think, okay, that's so I have a question. Oh, hang on. I think on the Zoom chat there was, do you think that reactivity is more common in dogs more than 10 years ago? Sue, why? I think it's more common because I think we've coined the phrase reactivity. 30 years ago, we never had reactive dogs. We had fearful dogs, nervous dogs, aggressive dogs. And what I'm urging people is to ditch the label, relabel reactivity and look at your dog as what it is. My dog is fearful. Okay, then if it's fearful, let's give the dog confidence. Let's build its confidence up so it's no longer fearful. If the dog is motion sensitive, if it's reacting to movement and it reacts to a cyclist, let's equip the dog with impulse control skills so that the dog can be in a situation where there's a fast moving thing in front of it and the dog understands not to respond to that. I don't think it's that we have more reactive dogs. I think it's that's the label that encompasses so many behaviors that by the sheer, when you've got aggression, fear, motion sensitive, etc., all lumped into one heading, of course there's going to be more en masse. And what I'm urging people is to think differently about these dogs, not only if you have one, but if you know somebody. And when I did the questionnaire, I asked the question, do you know somebody that has a dog that's deemed as reactive? There was an staggering percentage. It was something like 98 point something percent, if not more. So most of us know a dog that has been called reactive. And how can we be more compassionate? How can we be more understanding of that person's challenges so that we can help them move forward? And again, it comes back to my Lifting Ships podcast and YouTube clips. A rising tide lifts all ships. If we can support each other and be understanding and compassionate, that's going to avoid that person having that trauma and it resonating with them, and it being a stigma attached to them, because that could one day be me, that could one day be the person next to me. So it's just having compassion and kindness for all. Okay. So Jamie asked, do you think the prenatal stress could have a factor in the dog's reactivity? The mother's being a stressful environment with constant high levels of stress hormones circulating their bodies while carrying puppies. Does this possibly affect? In truth, Jamie, I don't know. What I would say was a bigger contributing factor of a dog prenatal stress would be the dog's temperament genetically. I would say that would be a bigger factor. So I have had dogs that weren't didn't have any interaction, wasn't as if they did anything particular, they didn't do any stringent programming in them, and they had the most amazing temperaments because their genetics were really sound. I've had dogs that I've seen dogs that have followed a stringent process of being reared absolutely beautifully, and the bitch was immaculately cared for, and the dog still had poor temperaments because genetically they had weak temperaments. I would say in my experience that genetics, most definitely, if the dog is genetically sound, it's almost like it doesn't matter what you do within reason, the dog will still be fine. But those dogs are, to be fair, more few and far between, because now breeding dogs is much more of a commercial entity. When you're in the current climate, a dog could be several thousands of pounds. So I think that's changed the motives for people. And you regularly, I talked about this previously in one of my blogs, you would have, the local mutt that was a concoction of all the dogs in the area. And those dogs tended to be a mixture of all the dogs in the locality. And they tended to be, a bit of a Heinz 57, generally robust, good temperament, but it was almost like the environment created it. So I would say genetics is most definitely, and I'm really, really particular about genetics in certainly the dogs that I breed on from and the dogs that I look for, in that the dogs you have to be able to live with them. I don't want a dog that that people have problems with and have issues with. Now that isn't to say that the dogs that I breed don't have the potential to be problematic, because they're border collies, as I discussed the other day. But it's to say they certainly aren't coming out with a hardwired predisposition to be fearful or apprehensive. That isn't certainly within their genetic makeup. So yeah, that would be my input on that. In the program, how can you tailor the things you do to the specific needs of your individual dog? So the course is so comprehensive. I talk about within the course about the 5 variations of or types of reactivity, and the course of action that would be applicable. Whilst training could be tailor-made to the individual, the course is so vast, but a lot of the stuff, it's about teaching some core skills and then building on those core skills. So if your dog, for example, is food motivated, you can substitute the lessons and use food. If your dog is fearful or apprehensive, then you can adapt some of the techniques, and that's just discussed. So it's applicable. You might have a bigger distance and remain at that bigger distance, and so forth and so forth. But the core information and the teaching is applicable to all dogs and to anybody that's wants to join. It isn't a case of you have to be be an experienced dog owner, dog trainer. The idea is it's set out in a very simplistic manner so that anybody can follow the program and follow the teachings. There's sort of a knowledge checking entity to it, so you can make sure that you're picking up the pertinent points. But the idea is that it's hence why I talked about Dylan's input. I spoke a lot with him as somebody that had been in that position. What is it that you would want? And I talked to loads of people in that position. If you could have an online entity, what would you want it to cover? And the key things was it had to be simple to follow. It had to cover the things that you could do on your own without the necessity of having a second dog or second person or the perfect scenario, and also real world training. So that's what's really been covered and with it in mind. All right. So I'm gonna just go finally if there's any questions on the Facebook chat, and if there's any on the Zoom. Let's just have a look. I'll just make sure. Okay, or I think I've gone through all the questions. So true about core skills and getting owners to relax to let their process begin. Yeah, absolutely. So I probably have missed some of your questions. If I have, I will scroll back over and I will I'll pick them up. So apologies if that is. It's sometimes, again, the technology can be a little bit challenging. Shuts down rather than stressful. Well, dogs that shut down rather than react to stress benefit. So Kathy, I'm just going to pick up your question. Will dogs that shut down rather than react in those stressful situations still benefit? So just to qualify, and I should have done this at the beginning of the conversation, was this course is designed for dogs that have that have traits that are deemed reactive and then take action moving forward. So they display something that's inappropriate. If a dog, and it's not to deal with dogs that are, for example, if a dog jumps on your dog's head and your dog says, don't sit on my head, that's not, in my opinion, what a reactive dog is. In the same vein, if your dog is scared of fireworks, that isn't what this course is designed for. I want to be really, really clear about that. And I'm going to, again, go over that next week a little bit more. But if your dog is stressful and shut down because of the situation, this course definitely will work on confidence and slowly building your dog's confidence up with other entities. But again, it focuses on giving the dog skills and giving you skills, which will ultimately affect the dog's response. So yes, that will be covered. I haven't got a shut down dog that I show you specifically going, I wouldn't put a dog in that situation, but I definitely share with you, for example, experiences Sugar, my little Jack Russell cross, who was a dog that was absolutely predisposed to shutting down, and how, things that I did with her built her confidence, and other dogs that I've owned that are similar that I'll share with you how you can build their resilience and confidence up. Again, a dog that shuts down is because it probably lacks a bit of resilience and tenacity, and we need to create that and confidence. So that's definitely covered in the course. All right. Okay, let me just have a quick look. Just final questions. Lots of comments. But my dog. Oh, hang on. Will any of the content address obedience and agility competition dogs and the environments that to deal with, or mainly pet ownership and general environments? So yeah, the course is designed to, again, coming back to it, it isn't a case of, right, it's explicitly for pet dogs or sports dogs. It's a generic course that gives the handler skills and the dog skills that they can take into any environment. Obviously, sports environments are much more challenging because there's a higher density of dogs and people. That needs to be considered as part of the process. And it also gives the handler, which is a huge entity of this course, the key skills to recognize when they're feeling anxious, etc., that they're feeling anxious, they're feeling concerned, and how they can help themselves. So that's a huge part of the course. So is it specifically for sports or domestic dogs? It's a generic course, and it's been designed in that manner. All right. So final questions. I think I missed somebody's question there before I. But my dog can be scared, hide, but then snap and bite. Yeah, Vanessa, confidence. Yeah, the course is most definitely aimed at dogs that are lacking confidence. So giving you a skill set to build the dog's confidence, building the dog's confidence up by the exercises that we cover, and also working on your confidence with the dogs. So again, there's so much information in the course that it will tap on all the variations of reactivity, or the core issues that can create it, and then most importantly, giving the dog and you the skills to be able to move forward within that. All right, guys, I know this has gone on longer than intended. It's been a very, very popular evening. You know, several hundred people have watched either on Facebook or joined the Zoom call. I want to just draw things to a close by first and foremost thanking those of you that have partaken and watched at home, first and foremost, and thank you for your patience with the technology. I really, really do appreciate it. I know that it can be sometimes a testing thing when you're trying to watch a video and it cuts out, etc. That's somewhat out of my control with the internet. These things happen. I'm sure we've all experienced it. So thank you for your patience with that. Secondly, I want to thank all the people that have contributed to the course. They have been absolutely amazing through this whole process. When I said I wanted to put this project together, they were the obvious choices, and how their contribution and their work behind the scenes has been amazing. And certainly the team that I've got behind me that have helped me, Alex, for putting it all together, has been absolutely amazing, and all the various entities to it. It's been fantastic. I'm so grateful. I hope that this evening has been insightful and informative, first and foremost. And the thing to say is that I'm absolutely, that some people are not going to join the course, some people are. I hope that the lives I've done this week, and I'm going to be doing stuff next week, it just gives you confidence and hope that you can move forward through this notion of reactivity, and you can change your dog's thinking on it. This is not just about me saying I've got this course and jump on board and etc. etc. It's about saying to you, it is possible to help your dog gain confidence and therefore move forward. All right, guys, we've gone on. It's been a really long evening. I'm sure you guys are ready for bed. I've got to go and sort dogs out, so I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you very much for partaking. And as I say, the recording will be on Facebook in the next couple of days. Just bear with me whilst I edit it, etc. And thank you for your participation. All right, everybody. Good evening. Take care.